She hoped he would realize that the money represented all that she had. Steve was on the bus coming back from his brother's house. He couldn't believe how late it was. He must have talked to his brother all day. They talked while drinking nearly a case of beer. He could still hear his brother's petulant voice. "I thought teaching meant something to you." "Of course, teaching is my life, but I have to do something for Gabriella. She's been the one sacrificing her life's dreams." "But killing your dreams will deform you. You won't be the man she married." "Maybe the man she married was too self-centered. Maybe as an engineer I'll be able to give her more time and care." It was dark outside the bus. Gabriella didn't know he took off work that day. As the bus drove on, he twirled in his hand the envelope containing the job offer for the junior engineer position at Nassau. The salary was twice as much as he was getting as a teacher, with far more opportunities for promotion. He wasn't so sure if he'd like the job, but the people who interviewed him were encouraging. It was a difficult decision to leave his teaching position. He worked hard, but he loved his job. He thought about how fulfilling it was to see a student interested in learning. Since he taught at Dunbar High School, the school's math assessment scores increased. He felt a part of that accomplishment. Teaching meant everything to him, but he loved Gabriella even more. He felt quite sure that now was the time for him to make sacrifices for Gabriella. He knew Gabriella came from a family that expected more for her. She was a selfless wife. She always supported his decisions, even if it meant she lived in a small condo and had to share a compact car. When her girlfriends hosted parties to show off their huge homes and talk about their European trips, she always boasted about her husband's teaching in the DC public school system. It had been 3 years and he didn't receive any raises. Every time he told Gabriella, she just hugged him and said, "Your teaching is worth millions of dollars." Steve smiled and squeezed the letter in his hand. He couldn't wait to give her the offer letter as her Christmas gift. She could finally live in a nice home in an affluent neighborhood. He dreamed of buying her precious gifts for her birthday and anniversaries and taking her on trips all over the world. He sat looking out the window of his bus, imagining what he would do with his first paycheck. He could take Gabriella to an exclusive Mexican restaurant. Price wouldn't matter. She could order her favorite French wine instead of draft beer. Then on the next day, she could go shopping. Perhaps she could buy 2 pairs of Nine West shoes without worrying about how expensive they were. No more Payless shoes for her. She deserved more. He fantasized about his wife enjoying the abundance of life. The bus stopped 1 block from their building. As Steve walked to his house, he was thinking about how he was going to hide the letter from Gabriella. She knew every part of the condo, so he hid it in his jacket. As soon as he walked through the door, he saw Gabriella was sitting in the dark in the living room. The Christmas tree was lit up. The lights on the tree blinked temporarily, showing Gabriella's face. "Where have you been? It's almost 11 o'clock, Gabriella asked. "I told you I was going to be late. Why are you still up?" Steve replied. I thought you were going to eat dinner with me. The tacos are in the refrigerator now. I was worried." Gabriella said, looking down. "Look, I'm tired. I'm going to bed. I'll eat in the morning," he said. Gabriella turned the lamp on and stared at Steve. He had never been late coming home since they got married. Suspicions and doubts welled up in Gabriella's mind. Has Steve been cheating on me? She shuddered at the thought of it. She couldn't imagine living without Steve. Steve purposely looked away. He didn't want her to know he had been drinking, but he was unsteady on his feet. He never got to the bedroom. He plopped down on the sofa in the living room and fell asleep. Gabriella remembered her gift for Steve was under the sofa cushion where he was sleeping. As she stooped over Steve to try to retrieve her gift, she smelled the liquor on his breath, and simultaneously she saw a letter in his breast pocket of his jacket. Her mind raced, thinking about his suspicious behavior that day, the length of time shopping, coming home late, his curt answers, and now liquor on his breath, and an envelope, no doubt with a letter from his lover in his pocket. She trembled as she thought about Steve being unfaithful to her. It never crossed her mind before, but now that the jealous bug had bitten her and rancor grew in her heart, she was determined to get her hands on that letter. With stealth and trembling fingers, she reached for the letter, but Steve was not asleep. He grabbed her by the wrist and sat up. Their eyes met, and he saw hatred in her eyes. "You're hurting me, Steve," she screamed in a fit of anger and jealousy, and continuing in a rage, she accused him. "You've been cheating on me, haven't you?" Steve was confused and hurt, dumbfounded and tongue-tied. In a reflex action, he slapped her across the face. He was even more shocked at his behavior than she was. She fled into the bedroom and locked the door. To secure herself from any further attack, she went into the bathroom and shut the door too. Steve kept banging on the bedroom door and pleading, "I'm sorry, Gabriella. I'm so very, very sorry. I don't know what got into me. Please forgive me." But all he could hear was her loud sobbing. Then he heard the shower running and banged even louder. "Listen to me, Gabriella," he shouted. "The letter was a gift to you for Christmas. It was an offer letter for a new position as a junior engineer at Nassau. Did you hear me? Please say something." But there was no answer. He didn't hear any sobbing or weeping. Steve felt a sudden fear race through his body like an electrical current. "I'm going to break down the door," he shouted. Using his arm as a huge log, he rammed the bedroom door open. The bedroom door offered less resistance. As he opened the door, he was shocked at what he saw. The room was steam-filled, and sitting in the bathtub was Gabriella. Her clothes were soaked through with blood mixed with water that was flowing down the drain. He turned off the shower and lifted his wife out of the tub and tried in vain to awaken her. Both her wrists were slashed. By the time the paramedics came, she was dead. Steve was dazed and confused. Like a madman, he kept repeating, I killed her. I never told her I had applied for an engineering job. If only I hadn't kept the letter a secret." No one could console him. For 2 years he mourned her death. The only relief he had was going back to work as a teacher. Whenever he spoke about her, he praised her for being always open with him. "She never held any secrets from me," he would say. To get on with his life, he decided that he must rid himself of anything that would remind him of her. So one day in spring, he burned all their belongings in the backyard of their condominium. It was a grand bonfire of pictures, carpets, blinds, beds, chairs, tables, and the sofa. The end.